Good morning. Cindy Birkland here with cindybirkland.com, and I'm excited to have Carl Dimailig here. He's back with us, and we get to talk about Part B of student loan elimination and all the different types of programs and some downfalls people can get into. And this is just kind of really close to my heart. As a lender, being in the loan business, we went through a time where we could get almost nobody through that had a student loan. The guidelines were so tight for us. Today that's changing a little bit, but the bottom line is there's still millions and millions of Americans that have student loans that need to get rid of them and find a way to do that. And, you know, the way these loans are compounding, they're not staying ahead of inflation at all. People are going under so quickly, and we've got to get out of them the legal way, right? And Carl has the answers. We work together. I set up a student loan elimination business, I think back in 2014, because this was so important to me and leading people to water, but you got to drink the water. So we're going to talk today with Carl and get some answers to these student loans, because if you have a student loan, you're going to need to get a hold of me at cindybirkland.com and let's talk. We will get rid of it for you. We just got to take a look at what you got and make this happen. So with that, Carl, I would like to start with you today. And we talked last time about the best student loan elimination, the best program, and the one you love the most, I guess I could say.
I'd say it's, if you had to pick without really thinking, that the one we talked about previously, Pay As You Earn, is probably the best overall.
But today we're going to talk about the next best one.
Yes, the next best one is called Revised Pay As You Earn. Not very creative. And I'll tell you why I think most people think that's the best one just right out the bat, is because there is a 50% interest subsidy when you go into that program. So that sounds great. It's like, wow, my interest is getting cut in half.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that alone will sell a lot of people on it.
Yeah.
And I'll continue on the positive side of this. This plan is best for someone who did not take out any loans for graduate classes.
Okay.
And the reason is, if you only had bachelor degree or below classes, your repayment forgiveness period is only 20 years. If you have one unit of graduate loans, now you go to 25 years.
For all of it, they lump it all together and make it 25, or just that part?
So even if you have just one unit, it's like, well, okay, now you're in the 25-year repayment plan, even your undergraduate
Sneaky
loans.
stuff, man. That's really sneaky and snarky.
Yeah, so if you don't read it, and like with everything, if you don't read it, the devil's in the details.
Yeah.
So this is best if you are a single income earner, or if you're married but your spouse does not have income.
Okay.
So
income is low and your student loans are high.
Yes.
I think that would fit most people that have a student loan.
So I'll go to the opposite side. Who it's worst for is a single borrower. You're married and your spouse combined, you make a lot of money because you're forced to use your combined household income is adjusted as a spouse.
Wow.
Whereas in Pay As You Earn, you could at least file separately, just use your own income.
Okay. So this, what I'm getting, and when Carl and I, we were vibing and we know about student loans, it is so important that you get with somebody who is a professional at this. Carl knows the details, and you can get so desperately hurt by what you don't know about this. It's kind of like doing your own taxes. Why would you do that? You could leave a lot of tax return money on the table because you just don't know what you're doing. And I tell people, you literally could do your own student loan forgiveness, but you could totally kill yourself financially doing it because of making the wrong mistake. So, okay, sorry to interrupt, Carl, but that is just, to me, so important that people understand this.
Yeah, so I guess let me go back to who this is still pretty good for. Married couple, both have student loans, and either they have relatively median household income.
Okay.
And this is where it gets kind of fun, as an engineer would say, because, ooh, look, variables. Yes, you're forced to combine your married income, but they'll now take a ratio. It's like, okay, if you borrowed 25 grand and you borrowed 75 grand, your combined monthly payment is going to be 25% on you and 75% on you. Versus what you might think is, okay, we take your whole household income and base your repayment on that. So
okay,
it's best for single borrowers, low income, or married borrowers. Both of you have the loans, and medium-ish income.
Okay.
Worst for high income, single borrower.
And that's where we would find a different program for those borrowers.
Right. Then you definitely want to look into pay as you earn.
Yeah.
And this is a really strange thing to think about. You could even have both of the borrowers on separate plans.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, they had separate plans before they got married. So just, every person as an individual, we have to do what's best for them. It's the same thing we do with mortgage loans and premium financing and life insurance. Is you got to look at the individual client as its own person, and then you have to look at what's best for them as married. But that's where a professional comes in. Is like you got to have somebody that knows what's going on here.
Yeah, and I have thankfully helped this one couple that reached out to me before they actually did the paperwork. I may have told you about this. It's an attorney. She graduated. The husband didn't have student loans, but she did. And they're expecting a child. So he said, you know what, honey, let me look into this. Let me take care of it. So he did pick a plan that looked great for the first 3 years. But then he didn't do because he didn't know was, if you filed separately and picked this plan, you would make her payments zero for the next 9 years. But he picked the wrong plan, which is the revised pay-as-you-earn, which combined their income and stuck her out for 25 years instead of 20. So it's a good thing we caught that because I think her total payment over 20 years was going to be like $8,000 into the loan, and then we obviously plan for what's forgiven after the 20 years. But
there's a lot of moving parts to these things.
Yeah, and it's fun for me, but for you, probably not.
Mm-hmm. Right, because it's about solving the problem and finding which avenue is best. Mm-hmm. And when you're good at this and you know about it, that's not difficult. But to navigate through this, again, I'm just going to say you need a good professional. And it doesn't cost a lot to get student loan forgiven. When you look at the fee to get this done versus what you'll pay over time, it's thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in saving. And Carl knows a way to make sure you're not getting taxed on the savings as well. Government likes to give 1099s when they've forgiven debt, and that doesn't always work for taxes. So you need to understand that you can get debt forgiven, but you could be getting a 1099. Well, when working with us, that is not the case. So again, another loophole that is legal that we know about, that if you don't, you better get a professional.
And you can do that as an entrepreneur. I think that's the best part. Most people think, they just don't know all of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's its own episode for that.
So tell us today what else you think debtors really need to know about that we can help with, like right now.
Is it specifically? Oh, I would say in your household, cash flow has got to be the most important thing. Who cares how many assets you have?
Right.
So any payments you can, and it comes down to math. If you can stretch out a payment, such as student loan repayment plans, lower your payment as low as possible so you can feed yourself, live. Sometimes even in the short term, that's better than just trying to hammer it down now. Especially if you do the math and if you do lower your payments with these forgiveness plans, the repayment plans, and you're going to be paying it off in 19 years. But if you did a forgiveness plan, it would be forgiven after 20, and you paid maybe half.
Yep.
And
we've got to count in what's going on with inflation right now. Mm-hmm. Your money today is becoming worth less and less and less. So it's so critically important that we don't go into this time with debt. And if you do have debt, we got to hammer it down in the best, highest and best way so that inflation, we can get through this. We were just talking about the price of gas today. I think we're at almost $6 a gallon in Nevada. Yes. It's so bizarre right now, bizarre times. So we got to work on inflation and getting these debts down as soon as possible. A lot of people have thrown up their hands and put their head in the sand because they don't believe that this is truly possible. And we're here to tell you student loan forgiveness is possible. It can be your reality, but you've got to make the phone call. You've got to get online and get a hold of us. Again, I'm going to remind you, cindyberkland.com. You can also email me at cindyberkland at gmail.com. cindyberkland@gmail.com. So,
one last thing.
Yep.
This is probably the most important thing with federal student loans. As a last resort, I wouldn't even recommend doing this. Wait before even considering a private consolidation, because all the benefits of what we just talked about.
You mean private loans versus federal loans?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's like an absolute last effort. Even if they entice you with 1%, really just pause and think about it, because all the benefits we mentioned are gone, and they can write their own rules.
Yeah. Again, more loopholes that we know about that a lot of people don't, and it is critical that you can cost yourself tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on how much debt you have, not knowing this stuff. So hire a professional. You know, it's worth its weight in gold in the long run. So get a hold of us, cindyberkland.com.